basically a bit of a kind of vigilante revenge fantasy, because I think most of us are kind of too decent to actually deal with arseholes how they really should be dealt with. So this is about a couple of middle-aged people that I know that were getting a bit of harassment, so I've changed their names and what have you. So this is called Spray Can Clippers and a Pair of Old Slippers. Hugh and Florence decided to downsize and move to a 2-bedroom terraced house in the outskirts of the city. Although their big old family house had grown quiet, what with the kids all having grown up and flown the nest, the sheer size of the grand old place meant it remained a relentless chore to upkeep nonetheless. The combination of 4 bedrooms lying empty and Hugh having had a heart scare, moving to a smaller place seemed a logical way forward. With the townhouse being a new build, the walls painted in nothing snazzier than white and magnolia, there would be less necessity to carry out repairs, something that previously Hugh had let him stress him out more than it should have done. All in all, the new place would be less of a physical and a mental task. The first 6 months in the new place overall had gone well. The neighbours were pleasant enough and not too overbearing, which suited Hugh and Florence. As pleasant as they were, nattering over the garden fence had never really been their thing. As over the years they would tend to socialise in their own terms. And although previously had an abundance of room to move about, the new place required a certain economy of space and movement that took a bit of getting used to. But Hugh's health had stabilised, and for the first time since he was a young lad, he had some hobbies. Spread out through the week, he would attend a paint class, as well as regularly playing lawn bowls and golf. And Florence was happy to do a bit of volunteer work in between catching up with her friends and family. Everything was in its place, and life was pleasant and still. And then it started. Subsequent phases of new housing estates were complete, and almost overnight children seemed to be everywhere. At first, Florence commented positively to Hugh, "That's nice, lots of young families starting out together. This would be a good place to raise kids, don't you think?" Hugh nodded in acknowledgement, quietly neither up nor down about the apparent influx of young'uns. Hugh loved to watch Richard Attenborough's animal shows. All set, sat on the couch with his feet up, a warm cup of tea at the ready, and the show starts. "What's that?" Hugh asked aloud. External to the side of Hugh and Florence's living room was a pedestrian underpass. Hugh swiftly removed his feet from the footstool and firmly planted them on the ground, spilling some of his tea in the process. "Flo, someone's bouncing a ball off our wall. I'm heading out there now to just tell him to chuck it," Hugh declared to his wife, clearly agitated, his chest tightening. Hugh began to tug at his shirt collar, his heart racing. Florence sprang into the room. "Look at you, Hugh, you're getting yourself in a hell of a state. It's just some kids. I'll go out there and have a quick word with them." "Please just leave it to me," Florence said calmly, hoping to address the situation quickly and fully, so that it didn't get out of hand and that Hugh didn't get too worked up about it. Florence put her slippers on and went outside. Hugh paused the TV and went upstairs. I thought he'd be able to hear what things were going on from the window of the spare room. Florence went outside to feed a pair of young twins, around 13 or 14 years old, and a girl who looked a couple of years older. Calmly and with a warm smile on her face, Florence politely explained that her living room was on the other side of the wall, and they were hitting the ball against it, and requested that they kindly stop doing it. Without skipping a beat, the twin boys in unison said, "No," before the young girl with the long blonde pigtails and a face that looked as though butter wouldn't melt informed Florence, "My mum says this is public property and we can do what we want here." Completely flabbergasted, Florence replied, "Excuse me?" The girl, so completely sure of herself, replied, "And there's nothing you can do about it. We know our rights." Just then, Florence lost her temper and yelled, "Bugger off, the lot of you. Go on, scram." The kids walked away, looked back as they did so, smiling, laughing. It was in this moment the seeds had been sown. The war had begun. Florence and Hugh's house was now a target. To the new kids in the estate, it would be the only thing that mattered. And if Hugh and Florence thought that bouncing ball was a nuisance, they hadn't seen anything yet. As it tends to be so often in life, Florence's initial decency was interpreted as weakness and to be seized upon like prey by wild animals. Night after night, more kids would gather, some as young as 8 or 9 years old, but most of them in their mid to late teens. The harassment getting worse and worse by each day. Each time Florence would beg Hugh not to get involved, and despite his fury, Hugh respected Florence's wishes as he stood in silent contemplation by the spare bedroom window, as more and more the kids harassed and laughed at Florence. On one occasion, Hugh heard Florence plead, "Please stop. This is our house. My husband's not a well man. He has a cute angina. To which one of the boys snapped back, what? Your husband's got a cute vagina? Followed by the unruly moronic cackle of his friends and associates. Here was Hugh, a man of decency, who worked hard all his life, raising himself up from humble beginnings to have a successful career, to be a good father, and someone who lived a life of quiet dignity, always turning the other cheek in the face of obnoxious, aggressive, or unreasonable behaviour. And yet again, what was he to do? To just take it, to just bow down, to be forced to move home and cave into this lunacy, all because a bunch of kids should know better. Then one night, after weeks of shouting and screaming, countless pieces of chewing gum being stuck on the wall and pavement outside, rubbish being put through the letterbox and dog shit being thrown in the back garden, Florence happened to be out visiting a friend. The hubbub outside was completely obscene, the worst yet. This could not go on, as after all, every man has their limits. It's almost nightfall, and yet unholy squadron of kids with nothing better to do would not relent. During this reign of harassment, there had been nights where Hugh was unsure if he could take it, off leading him to double down his medication. Although, not this time. As though it was a balmy summer's night, Hugh was perfectly cool and calm as he went upstairs and put on a long winter coat, a scarf around his face and a black woolly hat upon his head. Easing his way downstairs, he pulled up the light cord in the cupboard under the stairs where he kept his tools. Eyeing up the Hamilton screwdriver, as tempting as they were, he felt a natural kick of restraint. Although the red spray can and Clover's old hair clippers looked absolute perfection, it broke Hugh's heart when he had to put Clover down, the loyal old dog that he was. And Hugh wondered why he ever kept Clover's hair clippers. This must be why, Hugh concluded, certain that things happen for a reason. As Hugh slowly turned the front door key, just as he was about to walk out, he noticed Florence's slippers. Oh, I'll have those too, he thought. Swiftly, Hugh made his way into the underpath. The kids didn't note him at first. Regardless, he presumed he would be able to buy himself a few seconds, as he would not initially fear him, as they'd only ever encountered Florence. Just then, the kids were alerted to Hugh's presence when he started to shake the spray can like a metallic rattlesnake, and the kids froze where they stood. Then, shh! Hugh sprays red paint all over the face and hair of two spotty little twin boys as he says, "Oh, matter of fact, have that." And then let out a mighty yell, and they scarpered in floods of tears. Hugh turns his head, and the little girl with the long pigtails is stood there, mouth agape, frozen in shock. Hair clippers right down the middle of the head. There you go, inverted mohawk. The kids all start running in hysterics, like Hugh's some kind of mythic horror film creation. Although one of the older boys stands firm, then comes towards him. "Hey, the fuck do you think you're doing?" He asks, thinking he's going to be the one to do something about this. Hugh reaches into his pocket and whack! He smacks the young guy off his feet with one of Florence's slippers. Oofed! Sore chops! The boy falls to the ground holding his face before scrambling back up and then, like the others, running away as though his life depended on it. Hugh stands alone in the underpass, an anti-hero done good, satisfied that justice had been served. But he can't hang about. Hugh begins to walk away in the opposite direction from where the kids have gone, and he makes his way through the estate, discarding the coat, hat, spray can and clippers and slippers in various bins and bushes as he goes. Finally arrives at his local pub in search of a Victory beer. Sat in the pub, 4 pints in, he texts Florence. "Hi, sweetheart, went to the pub, don't wake up, kiss, kiss." The following day, the police knocked on the door, asked if Florence or Hugh had seen her head or anything the night before. Florence answered as Hugh stood quietly at the top of the stairs. "I'm afraid I was out last night, and my husband was down the pub for a rare night out." The officer added, some kids had been a bit of a nuisance, graffitiing and littering by all accounts. They were assaulted last night, and ironically there's no CCTV footage, as the victims were the one who'd broken the CCTV cameras weeks ago. The police officer pressed further, "Can I have a quick word with your husband?" Florence replied, "I'm afraid not. My husband doesn't keep very well, and he's sleeping just now. Perhaps some other time." Reluctantly, the police officer left, handing a business card with a phone number and an incident number, should any piece of information spring to Florence or Hugh's mind. As Florence locked the door, Hugh made his way down the stairs. Florence, keen to know if Hugh had seen her head or anything. "Oh, there you are." It was very strange. The police were there, asking if we saw anything going on last night. Apparently some kind of assault on those kids that had been bothering us. Hugh replied, that is strange. Strange indeed. Anyway, cup of tea. Richard Attenborough's on in a minute. The next day, someone, whether it was a local council or whoever, jet washed all the chewing gum and graffiti off the underpass. Hugh got to watch the wildlife shows in peace. His tea was warm and his couch was comfy. and the kids never bothered you in Florence again. Thank you.